Hello. This is the beginning of a devlog for this game I started working on like a week or two ago. Had the idea kind of mulling around for a while, but finally decided to take a dive and start building again. Been using Gemini to kind of help me a little bit. At first we were doing C++, but it was just buggy, horrible mess. So now we're doing Blueprint, which I know a lot better because I built all of Dark Sails in Blueprint. So I figure we'll do mostly Blueprint stuff. We'll dive into C++ here and there as needed for when we got a deep dive. But yeah, this this is the ship. Let me zoom out. Oh yeah, you can't really see it unless I do unlit mode. There it is. Yeah, this is the bones of my spaceship that I've built. I built it out of just basic Unreal Engine geometry to start with. Get some just very placeholder textures that show me, how tall things are. I think each of those squares is a meter. Yeah, 1 meter. Boop. Yeah, it's the whole premise of the game is that you are a member of a crew on a cargo hauling ship, and the premise of the game is basically that you go from place to place in the galaxy, warp jumping. Essentially, you jump into and out of warp space to engage in faster than light travel to get places, because space is huge and the faster than light travel is pretty quick. So the whole premise is that every single time you jump into warp space, it causes damage to your ship. It causes strange events to happen. The gravity shifts, time changes. Some of those will be the entire ship is affected. Sometimes they'll be locally isolated to like what I've been calling warp effect bubbles, where it's like there'll be a giant bubble encasing part of the ship where you walk into it and all of a sudden gravity's upside down. Crap like that. There's going to be mental effects that affect the crew as well. You'll be affected by certain things like, all of a sudden I'll be colorblind, or my character will have vertigo and everything will be upside down, or body dyslexia, where all of a sudden left is right and up is down, things like that. Lots of little crazy insanity. You have to run around the ship. There's mechanical shafts that you're going to have to get into. For now, I just did some really basic layout in this mechanical room. You go in here and climb this ladder, and there's these little mechanical shafts that go underneath. Eventually, there'll be shafts that you can get like probably between the rooms as well and up above. But for now, I just have this one mechanical shaft that goes between the two floors. But yeah, there'll be mechanical shafts that you have to get into, climb around. What I'll probably do is make access panels underneath the floors that you can like pull up and get into the access, the mechanical shafts more readily available if you need to. But yeah, like here's one right here that will have like a panel over top of it that you can pull out and go down into the shafts to go do repair work and fix things. Ooh, bugs. We find those. But yeah, I've just basically been building some very basic things with some amazing help from Gemini. We actually transitioned from Gemini 2.5 to 3 this week, so that was kind of cool. But it helped me build these ladders. I had to go do some research on my own as well, because it's Gemini is good, but it's not perfect. It definitely makes logic errors and things like that from time to time, but it's definitely a good jumping off point. It's really been helping me with Blueprint functionality in terms of like, what function should I use for this particular thing? Because a lot of times you just have to guess or just try different things and look it up. So it's taking a lot of the guesswork out of it, which is really nice. But like, for example, I built these ladders, and they're still not perfect yet, but if I go into the ladder, you can kind of see, actually, that's not how I want to do it. I wanted to open up the ladder blueprint, and you can see that it's got like various inputs. It's a dynamic ladder. It's got like a rail resize, ladder resize, so that if I wanted to, I could go in here and dynamically change the size of the ladder. So if I was to go in here and go to the root, I can, or actually there we go, it's the base. I could be like, let's change this ladder to 200. And it'll automatically resize. The rungs will resize. There's some nice YouTube tutorials on that. I can also change the rung gap if it ends up not working well for like my animations. So that's something I can change. But not really needed right now. But yeah, it's I figured I would build them robust to begin with. But then there was a bunch of issues I ran into. They're still not done yet. You hop on the ladder, and it's like you grab on. There's a little, there's a hitbox that you touch, and when you grab it, it snaps you onto the ladder automatically. And then you can go up, you can go down. That's W and S. If you go down, continuing going down, it pulls you off the ladder when you get to the bottom. And then likewise, if you get to the top, it kind of pops you up here. I'm probably going to smooth out that transition at some point, but for now it's fine. You can get onto and off the ladder, same kind of thing. It snaps you onto the ladder. One cool thing is that when you're on the ladder, if you look down, W becomes the descend key. So it's based on how you're looking, which took a little bit of tweaking to get that just right. But I'm pretty happy with it now because you can, look up, look down. That'll be really handy, I think, for when gravity is messed up and you're like, I need to climb this ladder, but gravity's backwards. Let's go that way. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, but everything I built out is very modular to try to make things easier to adjust. I have all of these individual rooms are built under what are called level instances. So it lets me essentially, go into each room and say, okay, let me go modify what's in this room, but it also lets me move the whole thing around as a giant unit, which is nice because then I can attach them all to the ship route here at the base. And then the whole ship I can move around boop, 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 with everything inside it. I just have to be diligent and make sure that everything is attached to it in one way or another. Like I've got my airlocks, bedrooms, consoles, things like that. I probably should put this console into the room that it's within, but for now it's what it is. The other thing that I did more recently after getting the ladders all working, and this was actually yesterday evening I finished this, is I guess yesterday evening I got these buttons working. So now if I walk up to a console, an interactable console, this is all based off of a master blueprint and they're all childs off of it. And I can mouse over an interactable. So I made this button interactable. And if I mouse over it, it highlights. Eventually I'm going to have toggle switches and sliders and things like that so you can interact with them. That's going to be pretty cool. But then if I left click, you can't hear that because I have my system turned off, but it calls the function. For me, it does a little beep. And then also I built an airlock with a similar setup where the airlock is actually a child of the interactable console interface. Or I guess the interactable blueprint is what it's the child of. So now if I walk up to it, I can hit the button. I've got all these different buttons linked up. They've got different names. So if I want, I can reclose that inner door with either of these buttons. I have to wait until the animation completes or it gets mad and does a little boop at me. Once again, you guys can't hear that because otherwise it'll be blasted out by my music. Same thing with the outer door. Obviously this will be different later because there'll be space out here and I won't just fall to my death, or I guess fall aimlessly. Another cool feature for now is that if I click the inner door and the outer door is open, it'll close the outer door first, it'll cycle the airlock for a second and then open the inner door, and same vice versa. Yeah. Pretty cool. I may end up changing that later so that you manually have to do that, and there'll be a console in here that gets mad at you if you try to do it in the wrong order. And there'll also probably be a console in here that is the pressurize/depressurize button. So you have to close the door, pressurize the room, boop, and then open the outside door. And that'll be kind of fun, just to give people extra craziness they have to do as they run around and try to, repair their ship. Oh yeah, don't forget to close the door. And that's pretty much what I have so far. I'm going to keep building it out. I think the next thing I'm going to build is the ability to fly the ship around. That's not going to be a huge part of the game, but it will be part of it where you periodically will have to adjust course while you're in warp space. Because essentially what it's going to be, you got to get from point A to point B within warp space. But in between, there will be various obstacles, whether that be just pieces of weird space debris. There'll be, maybe some non-Euclidean geometry or just morphing, shifting blobs. There's also going to be things called warp rifts, which are kind of big glowy cracks in warp space, and if you go through a warp rift, it will apply additional debuffs to yourself, your ship. You'll take ship damage, it'll dislodge your cargo, things like that. This is the cargo bay, at least for now. I probably am gonna get rid of this ramp and just do all ladders, just for more space, because this just takes up a lot of room. I also got to build a cargo bay door down here. And what I may need to do is the cargo bay door is probably not going to be an airlock. I'll probably just put an airlock there and an airlock there. And then the cargo bay may just be depressurized by default, because it's just such a big space. I guess the other option is that I make the cargo bay door a gigantic airlock, and then there's just the one airlock going outside there. The only issue with that then is that the cargo bay airlock then has to be big enough that you can fit your cargo inside it. So it may just be better to keep the cargo bay depressurized at all times, just from a logistical, logical standpoint of the spaceship. And then you just have to, when you're in the cargo bay, you're on your life support systems in your suit, which would mean I could get rid of this airlock. It would be unnecessary, and I could just have a little door leading outside or something right there. We'll see. Need to think about that. But yeah, that's the start of the game. I'm pretty excited to see where it goes, and the upside is it's not like a giant, huge scale that I'm building on. I'm not building a 10, 20, 30 hour like action RPG. It's literally just a single loop game where you just go do this cycle over and over again of deliver the goods, get the rewards, deliver the goods, get the rewards, try and survive, all that stuff. And of course it's multiplayer. That's the whole premise. If you can play it single player, but it's definitely, this game is going to shine in multiplayer, and that's why I built it, is because I want a fun game that's like this to play with my friends. It's not centered around shooting stuff. It's not centered around blowing stuff up. It's more like survive space, survive the chaos, do with your buddies. And then of course there'll be a lot of cool modifiers that change the pitch of your voice, change the look of your character. One thing that Sarah had a fun idea yesterday is that whenever you go into a vacuum, if your spacesuit visibly puffs out like a little just balloons out, not a ton but enough that it's noticeable, just to indicate that you're in a zero pressure environment. And that'd be kind of cool, because if you have a spacesuit that's full of air and you have positive pressure in your spacesuit, you're gonna blow up a little bit. You're gonna be puffy. So little things like that we'll be adding in as we go, but for now it's a good start, and I'm pleased with it, and I'm having fun, and I appreciate all the help that the AI is giving me, because I don't want to do an AI generated project, but an AI assisted project. Hell yeah, why not? And of course, I'll be doing all the artwork myself, but I am going to get some assistance from various AI tools for that to help me kind of flesh it out, at least initially, to build some 3D models from my sketches. And then later on, I'll probably go in and, clean up those models myself, or just make new ones from scratch based on those. We'll see. Time will tell. But that's what's up. Pretty stoked.